welcome to the new episode of Diabetic 365, and today we have a very special guest to the show. He is Ronnie from thepoordiabetic.com, and he has been type 2 diabetic from past 14 years. So let's get started. Hey Ronnie, how are you?
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good. So tell us your story. When were you diagnosed with diabetes, and what was the first reaction and all this stuff?
Like you said, I was diagnosed about 14 years ago. I was 19 at the time, and actually, I'm not. How can I put this? At the time, I was diagnosed as a type 1, actually, since I was really young. At the time, I was 19, and I was put on insulin right away. So my story is, when I was diagnosed, like I said, they said I was type 1. I was put on insulin, and I started doing everything I was supposed to do, take care of my diabetes. I was scared to heck at the time because I was like, oh my God, how do I change my life? I knew nothing about diabetes at all. And same thing about 14 years ago. There was no diabetes online present. I didn't have anybody in my family did not have diabetes, so I had no idea who to reach out to. So I was practically alone in my diabetes management going on. I was with a different insurance company at the time, so I was seeing a different physician when I was diagnosed. So obviously 3-4 years later, after being on insulin for so long, I changed jobs, changed insurance companies, and I saw a different doctor, and he said, oh no, you're not type 1, you're probably type 2. So he's like, obviously, since I was doing what I was supposed to do, diet, exercise, he's like, you can obviously control your diabetes without the insulin. Mm-hmm. And I said, woohoo, fine. So he switched me from insulin to oral medications, and that went on for about 7-8 years. Mm-hmm. And then sometime early last year, everything started changing. The metformin was not working anymore, and I was having a tougher problem trying to get everything in gear and set and control. So we just decided to go back on insulin. So right now, both on oral medications and insulin.
Okay.
That's where I am.
So you named your blog as The Poor Diabetic. So why did you do that? And is there any special reason for doing that?
When I started my diabetes journey online, obviously The Poor Diabetic was started a good 2.5 years ago. And before I started the blog, I was doing other blogging work for other companies, and it seemed the biggest issue was every time I told somebody I'm diabetic, then this thing still comes up. People start giving you advice like, oh, if you stop eating too much sugar, drinking pop. Obviously the thing is, it's your fault. The first thing somebody thinks of when you say you're diabetic, especially type 2, they say, oh, it's your fault. Mm-hmm. Whether it's subtle, whether it's direct, they're still going to say it's your fault. So when I decided to start The Poor Diabetic, I was thinking, instead of the first connotation being a negative, it's your fault, every time I say I'm the poor diabetic, everybody's like, oh, poor you, which is, I don't know, it was kind of like a quirky, funny thing, because I just wanted to take the whole blame yourself thing to a more, when you tell somebody, oh, I'm sick, they're like, oh, poor you, you're sick. That's the kind of image I wanted to portray with the blog. So yeah, it was kind of a funny thing, but I don't know, it's caught on, and that's where I am 2 years later.
So you said you were in denial for some period of time with this diabetes. So when did you come out of that? When did you think that, oh no, so this is the time to take care of myself?
Actually, the denial took a good long while for me. You gotta imagine when I was diagnosed, I was only 19, first of all. And second of all, I was out on my own for the first time. I'd left home about a year earlier. So I was being the guy, I'm like 19, I'm young, I'm invincible. So when the diagnosis came, I was like, oh my God, I can't change my life. I can't do all this. And with diabetes, the big thing is you don't see the effects right away. When you're diagnosed, they tell you, do this, do that, or you're going to lose a limb here, you're going to have all these complications later on in life. So you're thinking, I'm too young, 19. Complications come, I can only handle them. That's 20 years down the road kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So that, in addition to, I have a phobia for needles. So the injections, the daily insulin injections, the first 4 years was terrible for me. It was bad, and I wanted nothing to do with it. So that actually kind of led to the whole denial thing, because I just didn't want nothing to do with it, both mentally and physically. Even though I took care of myself, it was like I was being forced to do something every single day.
So how did you change your complete lifestyle later on?
I guess my outlook was, once I got to the online diabetic community, once I started seeing other people, what they were doing with their management, and I got exposed more to the complications. About 75 to 80% of all my family members around me are in the medical community, either doctors, nurses, clinical officers, anything you can think of. And the more they started showing me just being exposed to the whole diabetes, because the first 4 or 5 years I was doing everything on my own. I wasn't exposed to anybody. I didn't know anybody who had diabetes, and I was kind of hiding it from myself. So I really could not see what the big picture was until, like I said, 4 or 5 years, I got off insulin, different physician and all that, and I kind of saw the big picture. And after I saw the big picture, then everything just kind of opened up from there.
Okay. So the next step in the toughest part in being diabetic is maintaining your highs and lows. So how did you manage that?
Obviously, there's some random highs that always occur. You cannot control that. That happens, and you have to take care of it on an individual basis. But most of the time, I have this thing somebody told me a long time ago with diabetes is controlling your sugars is about doing what is necessary to manage your diabetes. So, for me, I understand when my sugars are highest, so I adjust my meals according to that. Like, for example, I'll not eat any carbs with breakfast because my morning sugars always run high. So when I take my medications in the morning and leave out that carbohydrate, it kind of brings my sugars to level of control. And then obviously I test all the time. We hear this thing where type 2s are not supposed to be testing as much as they do. It's unnecessary. It's not the right thing to do, but that's something I don't believe in. I test 3, 4, 5 times a day. So that's the only way I keep on top of it.
No, okay. And you also had this problem of insurance, and you didn't have insurance for quite a while. So how did you manage to, test your blood sugars and also your medication?
You actually become, it's a lot of work, but you go back to the beginning to how much are you concerned about controlling your diabetes. There are obviously, here in the US, there are a lot of resources you can follow that will help you get those supplies, get those test strips if you need them at subsidized price. You go to like the free clinics. I used to go there all the time. If you go to a free clinic, okay, it's not going to be free, obviously. the medication and the supplies are not going to be free, but they get subsidized.
Okay.
And you can get your drugs for cheaper. And then the companies who make test strips, they have programs, the prescription plans where you just send in a form and they send you what you need. So it's a lot of elbow work, what you call elbow grease. It's a lot of work, but once you find these resources, you can still manage to make it. So.
Oh, okay. So any kind of resources that you found online that helps you to do that?
Wow, there's nothing I can think of offhand, like a general resource, but like I said, most companies have what they call PCPs, the patient prescription programs.
Mm-hmm.
You go on any website of any diabetes drug manufacturer and you'll find these, and they just give you a form where you can take to your doctor to fill out, and they'll give you a supply. Usually it's a year supply, and it's based on income and all the other things. But if you can get your doctor to fill it out for you, mm-hmm. and just send it in, and they'll send you the supplies. There is a website that has all that, but it's been a couple of years. That's something I have to look.
Okay, that's fine. Okay.
Yeah.
So the next thing, the idea that you brought a few days back was a Million Diabetes March to the White House. So what do you think on that?
Actually, I was at the Roche Social Media Summit. It's this thing they do every year. Roche, the pharmaceutical, they bring in people who are in social media, and from that we had a meeting, actually like a lunch meeting with the president of the International Diabetes Federation, and he was trying to tell us that, first of all, let me say the problem with diabetes not even companies, but the people who represent us, the ADA, the JDRF, the IDF, these guys don't really work together. So here in the US, the IDF does not really have an exposed, or let me say a foothold that is local, that people can get to and understand. So most of us had no idea the challenges they were facing, their actions, and what they're trying to do in the diabetes community. Obviously, their goal is international and not local. So since I was diagnosed, I've been doing a lot of stuff with the American Diabetes Association, some JDRF stuff. So I had no idea what the IDF was about. So when the president came to talk to us, he told us about the diabetes outrage program they're trying to create. They're trying to create outrage in people because the way he said it was, insulin was invented over 90 years ago, but there are kids today who die worldwide because they don't have access to it. Mm-hmm. In September, there's a UN summit about communicable diseases, and diabetes is one of them. And what we're trying to do is to get President Obama to attend this meeting. So the idea for the Million Diabetes March to Washington was to get him to attend this meeting and take diabetes seriously, because unless it's, I don't want to say provoked, but unless it's put some effort on mm-hmm. at the international level, then there's not really much that can be done. There has to be something where government leaders, the UN, puts a lot more effort into it. And that's what the IDF is trying to do, get us all to get our leaders and push them to the UN summit so they can highlight and concentrate and understand what it takes to get diabetes treated and mm-hmm. finding a cure for diabetes. And if not, then helping these people who are not capable or do not have the resources available to get the much needed drugs and insulin.
Mm-hmm. So more awareness should be created.
Yes.
Okay. So the next question that you posted on your blog